Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Peace be with you all. Welcome to today's Sufi meditation session with me, Paul Salahuddin Armstrong, at the University of Birmingham's Multi-Faith Chaplaincy. I hope everybody is having a good day, and wherever you're tuning into this from, you're enjoying Ramadan and benefiting from this holy month, and that things are going well for you. And if things are not, then, may Allah make things easier for you. So today, I've been asked by a brother who's joined me here at the university to discuss a little bit about how I came to be a Muslim. Because he was quite surprised that I've been a Muslim for 22 years. And I don't know, when you've been a Muslim for 22 years, you kind of it's just normal for me now. But I don't really even think of myself as a convert or a new Muslim because I've been living here for 22 years. It's quite funny sometimes. I come into some younger groups, when I go and visit a mosque or a family, and there's some youngsters and they say, "Oh, are you a new Muslim?" And I'm like, I point out, well, I've been a Muslim longer than you. And they look at me, huh? But, I mean, it's understandable, I guess, why people would be curious about that. But, yeah, my journey to Islam it's a long and unusual one, because firstly, Brother Ajmain asked me if I had been a Christian before. And a lot of people might assume this because obviously the United Kingdom is a traditionally Christian country. But the reality is I've never been a Christian, because to be a Christian, you have to at least accept the Apostles' Creed. The Apostles' Creed is, like we have our Shahada, we declare that there's no God except God and Muhammad is the messenger of God. They have the Apostles' Creed. And I've never accepted the Apostles' Creed because, there's some parts of it I could agree with, but I don't agree with certain aspects of it. If I did, I couldn't possibly be a Muslim because it conflicts. The idea that a human being could be an incarnation of God never made sense to me. That doesn't mean a human being can't have the presence of God with them or even within them, and be expressing something through that connection, which is incredibly special and powerful. But for that human being to actually be an incarnation of God, and for that human being to be worshipped, this didn't make sense to me. And I mean no disrespect to anybody who is a faithful Christian out there for whom this is their precious belief, and if that's how they understand it, then I respect that. But I'm just being truthful to what resonated with me, and that never resonated with me. So I never accepted Christianity. But at the same time, did Jesus inspire me? Yes, Jesus inspired me because Jesus was a man who had the most beautiful teachings. You read the Sermon on the Mount and read, about blessed are the pure in heart and blessed are the peacemakers. Surely this is true. And when he fed the people who were hungry, when he healed the people who were sick, of course, this is inspirational and true. And I always was inspired by that. But for me to actually worship a man didn't make sense to me. Even I read in the Bible that God is not a man. It's in Genesis. So that was not the path that I felt comfortable taking. So of course, naturally, when this was all that was on the table when I went to school, at middle school, I felt a bit lost and confused because of this, and I was looking for other answers. I remember there was a class in my middle school when there was a teacher called Mrs. McLaren, and she was telling us the one day about another religion, and that some people have this religion. And I was not really paying any attention in RE class at school for the reasons I just mentioned, because usually it was a class about Christianity and it didn't really resonate with me. So I tended to switch off in religious education lessons. But this one class, I remember my ears perked up and I thought, this sounds interesting. This makes sense. And she was telling about there's another religion. And in this religion, they believe, so she must have mentioned Islam, but I missed that. But then when she said that they believe in the prophets like Moses and like Abraham, and they believe in Jesus, but they believe he was a prophet like Moses and Abraham, something along these lines, she said, and that he wasn't, the incarnation of God, which of course then she followed with, which of course as Christians we don't believe, but for me, that made sense. I was like, this is interesting. Maybe there's another way that I can believe in Jesus that makes sense to me. And I remember I went up to the teacher after the class and I asked her, I said, Miss, can you tell me more about this religion? It's very interesting. She said, what do you want to know for? And I said, I'm interested. Yeah, but what's your religion? I said, I don't know. I haven't decided. Well, what's the religion of your parents? I said, I don't know. And she says, but you're a Christian, aren't you? You don't need to know about this. Wallahi, this was the response that I got. Now, I mean, I'm a Muslim chaplain at the University of Birmingham. And if someone comes here from a Christian background and asks me something about Christianity, to the best of my knowledge, I will answer them truthfully about Christianity. I'm not going to tell them, you don't need to know that. I even educate Muslims about what Christians believe and what Jews believe and what Sikhs believe, because we should all have at least an understanding of what each other believes, because it fosters good relations between people. But she didn't even give me that. And I was quite astonished and shocked as a child when I had this experience. But I remembered that I'd heard about this religion that was believed in Jesus, but was a bit different. Then, of course, I was a child, so I kind of forgot about it for a bit. But somewhere in my memory, I remembered this. And when I went to university, I remember there was what I now understand must have been an Islam awareness store, because we have something called Islam Awareness Week in England that's run by the Islamic Society of Britain. And there was this, it looked like a market stall in the center of Wolverhampton, and it had Jesus, Muhammad, God, Moses written on it. And I was there with my Hindu friend, Ash, and I said, come on, it's these religious nutcases, let's go and have a laugh. Because I was 18, wasn't I? It's normal, unfortunately. That's what we are like when we're young. So I went up and had a laugh. And I said, okay, so what do you believe then? What do I have to do to join your cult? And things like this. And they were very polite and very friendly, in spite of the fact that we were actually being quite rude, to be honest. And I told my friend, when I realized that they were quite nice people, I actually told my friend, no, let's not, And they gave me a translation of the Quran by Muhammad. They says, well, if you want to know about our religion, read this book. It's called the Quran. And I said, Quran? I remembered I'd heard Quran before from that lesson at school. I says, I always wanted to know what was in this book because I'd heard about it, but nobody had ever given me a Quran. I didn't know where to get a Quran. I thought it was in a foreign language. And they said, no, you can read the translation in English. So at that point, I just stopped joking, and I asked my friend to stop joking, and I took the Quran and I took some of the leaflets. And when I went home, I started reading it. And I carried on reading that every time I had problems. And it was strange because my mum had a Bible, and I tried to read the Bible ever since I was quite young. I could never get into it. I tried, I couldn't get into it. Now I thought it was because it was the King James translation of the Bible, which is in Shakespearean type English. And so I wasn't brought up speaking Shakespearean English. So you have to do a bit more study to understand that. I mean, I understand it now. I quite like it actually. But of course, this is not how people speak. So I thought that was the problem. I went to the church shop in town and bought a new international version of the Bible. I asked them, I said, do you have any Bible that's in an easier English that I can understand? It says if I could read it in modern English. And I bought this from the church shop in Redditch, in the actual church. And I took it home and I could read it, but I couldn't read it. I tried. I could not get into it. It was like it was closed to me. I would try to read it, but I couldn't. And then when I was given this Quran, the weird thing was, I could read it. Whenever I had problems, I could read it. And yet, it's really strange because anybody who knows the pictorial translation of the Quran knows it's written in Victorian English, which isn't all that different from the Shakespearean English I couldn't read in the King James Version of the Bible. But I could read it and it spoke to me, it spoke to my heart. And every time I had something that was bothering me, I needed to pray or something, I would get this translation and I'd start reading it. But then I looked at Muslims and the Muslims I knew were quite badly behaved. Some of them were actually into some criminal activities. I was even robbed by some Muslims. But one day I went out of my room at the student hall residence. I went to the toilet and literally went back to my room. It was like a 5-minute visit. Somebody had walked off with my stereo system. And I saw them out the window running off, and it was young British Pakistani kid that took it. I don't know, how, you know, they must have been very quick. And so, you know, I thought, you know, and then I met some of the Muslims that were quite fanatical in their beliefs. And I thought, you know, I don't want to be a Muslim because if I become a Muslim, it's like, who are these people? They're no good. So what happened? I started looking into every other religion except for Islam, because obviously the Quran's good. I love the Quran, but I don't want to be this religion that, you know, has these criminal people and these bad people that I've met. So I started visiting. I visited the Hindu temple in Wolverhampton, a very nice temple. And I sat with the Pandit. He saw me in there just sitting down, you know, thinking and reflecting and taking in the atmosphere. And he offered me a cup of tea. And so I said, yeah. And he gave me this Indian tea. I said, this is really nice. And I was enjoying this tea and I had a nice conversation with him. And I said, you know, I like it here. It's very nice. I said, but what I don't understand is why do you have statues and pray to statues? Because surely the God who created us is not in a statue. A statue is made by human hands. So when I pray, why do I need to go to a statue to pray? And the Pandits, yeah, well, you can pray without the statue. Of course, God will hear you. But this is our tradition. We have the statue, and we believe when we pray that the spirit of the God comes into the statue while we pray. I said, okay, but that doesn't make sense to me why we need the statue still. But you know, you have your tradition, so that's fine. Thank you for the tea. And then I visit some other people. I visited Hare Krishnas. And Hare Krishnas, they didn't have statues, but they had pictures. And obviously believe similar things. And I found them a little bit too eccentric for me. Very lovely, but you know, I was not planning on becoming like a monk. I didn't think you needed to become like a monk to follow a religion. And some of the other things they said, which sounded a bit, it just didn't resonate with me. But respect to them. I mean, if they devote themselves to this, you know, maybe there's some good in it for them. But and then I visited a Sikh Gurdwara on Cannock Road, and I liked the Sikh Gurdwara. There was no statues in there, and very nice environment. Whenever I went in there, the aunties that were in the kitchen always offered me to have some tea and something to eat, and they wouldn't let me leave actually if I didn't take something. They're really wonderful people. And then I'd sit upstairs, and sometimes they'd have a service, and I'd listen to the service and listen to the music, and sometimes I'd just sit there, pray, and I'd meditate on beads, wahi guru, wahi guru, wahi guru, which was very comforting. And wahi gurus just mean like Allah in their language. It's actually mean heavenly teacher or something, you know, which, and they only believe in one God. And they don't believe in having statues or anything like this. They also wore turbans and had beards, and just something about the whole thing I liked. But I didn't convert to becoming a Sikh, but I spent 6 months there and I learned about something about their gurus, starting with Guru Nanak and Guru Arjan Dev and ending with Guru Gobind Singh. And I've got a great appreciation for the Sikh religion. It is a very good teaching and very close to Islam, actually. And this was the thing I discovered. All the things I liked about Sikhism were actually in Islam, but the Sikhs were doing it better than a lot of the Muslims that I'd met. So I came full circle and went back to the Quran. And then in this Sikh Gurdwara on Kanak Road, I says, "Oh Allah, if you want me to call you Allah, if you want me to be a Muslim, you created me. I asked you many years ago to take the confusion away from me. Please take the confusion away from me. Show me what you want from me, but give me a sign, something I know is definitely from you." I says, "I'm very impressed with the Quran, but it's still a book printed on paper. How do I know it is really from you?" And so I begged Allah for a sign, something that I would know is definitely from him, and I couldn't mistake for anything else, because I didn't want to be confused. I wanted hikmah. I wanted to be guided. When I woke up the following day, there was no confusion anymore. I woke up with a very clear mind, a very clear heart. There was answers to my questions that I had already there. Even I was shown why I went to all of these different places of worship and didn't come straight into Islam. The insight came to me that I didn't want you to become arrogant and bigoted. If you didn't come this route, you might have come straight into Islam and thought that Islam is the right path, and then been rude to other people and disgrace them. But there's good people within all of these traditions. There are people who are sincerely believing in Allah according to the tradition that they grew up with and doing their best to be a good servant of Allah. Whether they be a Hindu or whether they be a Sikh or a Christian, all of these religions ultimately, however they explain their theology, they still believe in Allah. Within Hinduism, you might see the statues, but they believe that the statues are avatars of the one God. They call Brahma or Om, and they believe that's the one God. Educated Hindus just go straight to God. Within Sikhism, they're totally monotheistic, like Muslims. Within Christianity, they also believe there's one God, but they have some ideas that are a bit different about Jesus. Jews are pure monotheists. They believe in the same Allah as us, same way. Even in Buddhism, a lot of people think Buddhists don't have God, but they don't focus on God as much. They do believe in God. The Buddha never said there wasn't a God. But Buddhist teaching puts more emphasis on that we have to work on ourselves to become good human beings, which is something the Prophet ﷺ taught with regards to the Sunnah and how we're supposed to work on ourselves and improve our adab and akhlaq, our manners, and how we respect people and stuff. So all of these paths, they have something. And by not making me come direct, Allah was showing me, don't think that these are bad people. If people are sincerely following any of these paths, they're good. Just like if someone is sincerely following Islam, they're good. But there's also bad people in all of these traditions. So if you meet a bad Sikh, or you meet a bad Christian, or you meet a bad Hindu, It's like the bad Muslims that you met. They're just bad people. It's not the fault of the tradition necessarily. And if you read the Upanishads or the Ramayana or the Bhagavad Gita or the Dhammapada or the Tao Te Ching or the Bible, and as I have done many times over the years, there is wisdom and guidance within all of these books. For the person who has an open heart and is willing to learn, there's wisdom in that. There's many times I've actually posted things on my social media where I put a verse from the Bible, a verse from the Quran, or a verse from the Dhammapada, that's Buddha's teaching, and a verse from the Quran or Hadith, because they intersect. So many of them intersect. Obviously, these books are very old. Some of these religions, the Hinduism is thousands of years old. Buddhism is also thousands of years old. Judaism is thousands of years old. Christianity is 2,000 years old. Even Islam is 1,400 years old. When a religion has been around for so long, people develop it and change how they make the buildings. They change how they do things. And so everything starts to look a bit different. But even these other religions, if you go to the core of them and look what the real teaching is, compare not necessarily what Hindus do today, but compare the Upanishads with the Quran. Then you start to see how close the teachings are. Compare the teaching that Krishna gives Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita. Now, Hindus see Krishna as a deity to worship, as a god. However, if we see Krishna as a messenger of the God, as a prophet of God, and then look at what Krishna is teaching and understand sometimes the things Krishna says are Allah's words, like when Muhammad Sallallahu was reciting Quran, and sometimes they are Krishna's words. Then compare how close the teaching of Krishna is to the teaching of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu. You will be astounded. It is incredibly close. But you see, this is an old religion. After a long time, people have told a story. Sometimes things get changed. It's like a tall story. Something changes. You know, what do they call it? Chinese whispers. You know, ever played Chinese whispers? One person tells somebody something, tells somebody something. When you hear it again at the beginning, it sounds different. Mm-hmm. But it started from the same thing. You've got to realize the other religions are like Chinese whispers. The older the religion, the more Chinese whispers there are, the more that is different from the original, but there's still something of the original in those traditions. And of course, when you have the books, like you have the Upanishads and you have the Bible, you can actually go back to the book and then you see even more closeness. And this is a particular wisdom that in the world today, we need this more than ever, because so many problems are caused by people half understanding things. I mean, you don't even have to go outside Islam. You can go within Islam. There are people that have said to me on here when I've been broadcasting and I just trimmed my beard, Astaghfirullah, where's your beard? Where's your beard? And it's like they're focusing on the beard. They're not listening to whatever I was saying. So does that mean if I have, like, this is a famous story of Mullah Nasruddin, and he was listening to the Imam, and the Imam was saying, show me a man with a big beard, and I will show you a good Muslim. Mullah Nasruddin says, Imam Sahib, my goat has a bigger beard than you. Are you saying he's a better Muslim? Now, I'm not knocking beards. If someone wants to grow a nice Sunnah type beard, like what the Prophet ﷺ grew, and then comb it and tidy, Alhamdulillah, barakah in that. I'm not criticizing that. But don't think that the deen and the knowledge is in a beard or is in clothes. Some people, they look at someone, like I can wear a long gown, I have done in the past. When I was a new Muslim, I had some very long shalwar kameez that I wore, and also a long thobe. And when people saw me in that thobe and a hat or a turban, I would have people coming up to me and saying, "MashaAllah, Sheikh Saab." Well, I'd been a Muslim for like a year or something, and how can I be a Sheikh? Yeah, now I've been a Muslim for 22 years. I've been studying the religion for 22 years. I've been living the religion for 22 years. But if I trim my beard, astaghfirullah, what kind of Muslim are you? Or if I'm wearing a t-shirt, can you not see how there is an issue here? But these people exist. They think like this. I remember once when I was quite new to Islam, and I was asked I spent just a few visits I spent with this group called Tablighi Jamaat. And they asked me to speak once. For some reason, they only ever asked me to speak once. And during this, I was just about to speak, and I was in an old house mosque. It was like a big house that had been converted into a mosque. I think it was a vicarage at one point. A vicar used to live there before the Muslims bought it. And I looked at the window and I saw the paint on the windowsill, and it was cracking, and you could see the wood is starting to rot. And so it inspired me. I was going to say something else, but I mentioned this in my talk and said, you know, we have to be careful within Islam that we do not pay too much attention to veneers, because you can have a piece of rotten wood and then you can put some nice veneer on it or paint it. But if you push your finger into it, it's broken, it's rotten inside. On the other hand, if you have good wood, even if you've only just got a thin varnish on it or something, it's strong. It's not the veneer we should be focusing on. It's the heart. These things, yes, if you have a nice sunnah beard and you have a heart full of iman and a mind full of knowledge, alhamdulillah, this is beautiful. Same with if you're wearing a long gowns and the very traditional clothing of somewhere like Morocco or the Ottoman clothes or something. It's beautiful. But if you're just wearing clothes and you just have a long beard, Fidel Castro had a long beard and he was a famous atheist. It's just clothes. It's just a veneer. I'm not trying to put anybody off. If you want to do these things, that's up to you. Just like it's up to me what I wear. And also, of course, we have to consider if we have an audience who we work with, or we have a job, we have a career, and the people that we work with and how people normally dress, we shouldn't be deliberately seeking to stand out like a sore thumb. It's actually within Islam that the Prophet Muhammad taught us not to stand out for these sorts of things. But we should stand out because of our adab, because of our akhlaq, our manners, our respect, and because of our professionalism. You know, the first professional army in Europe, where was it? It was the Janissaries of the Ottoman Empire. The Europeans learned professionalism from Muslims. Yet today, a lot of Muslims don't look professional because they insist on these outward things that they think make them good Muslims. To be a good Muslim is how you live, how you behave. This is decoration. Even if you look in Muslim countries, the Turks don't dress the same as the Moroccans in their traditional clothes, or the Palestinians, or the Indonesians. They all have their own traditional clothing. As an Englishman, this is my traditional clothing. And actually, the trousers come from the Turks. The English used to wear tights in the time of William Shakespeare. before they strengthened ties with the Turks. And then someone got an idea that these trousers are a pretty good idea. And thank goodness for that. I would not want to be wearing tights. Wouldn't suit me at all. But inshallah, there's something that we can take from this, and maybe these things are things that I can discuss a bit more in future. And if you have any requests, things that you would like me to discuss, do send me a message in my inbox on Facebook or on Instagram. You can drop me a message and say, would you like to mention something about this in your Sohbet, or I have this question. Also, if you want to ask me something private, and I'll answer that privately, I won't speak about that. But if you want me to mention something in my Sohbet, to discuss a topic, then please do ask me, and I will try to include it. Now, I'm going to finish off there because I have to at least read a little bit of dhikr before we break our fast, and it's actually getting close now. So I'm going to close that there. And if there is anything which I have said which you have found beneficial, inspiring, I give thanks to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Prophet Muhammad, my parents and my sheikhs, because the thanks is due to them. And any mistakes are my own. نويت العمي نويت الوزن نويت القوى نويت الاعتكاف نويت السلوك نويت الجهاد لله تعالى في هذا جميع. We begin with the recitation of the Kalama Shahada. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. We seek Allah's forgiveness with the recitation of Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, 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 Astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, Azim alladhi la ilaha illa huwa hayyul qayyum wa atubu ilayh. إنه هو التواب الرحيم يا مصري برأسباب يا مفاتي أبواب يا مقلب قلوب والأبصار يا دلائل المتخير يا غيث مستقية يا حي يا قيوم يا ذو الجلال والإكرام وفريد أمري الله إن الله بصيرا بالعباد. Rabbi Tashrif, direct your heart to the heart of your chef. Fatiha Sharifa. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين صلوات الشكر بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم 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 قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد فاتحة الشريفة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. صلوات الشريفة. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. 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 أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ربي خالتني من الملك ورمتني من طويل الحديث فطير السماوات والأرض أنت ولي في الدنيا والآخرة توفاني مسلما ولكني بالصالحين أمان بالله صدق الله العظيم. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. إلا الشرف نبي وعلي وأصحاب الكرام وذواه أنبياء والمرسلين وكل ما يشرعهم وإلى إماتي أبوا وإلى مشاكين في طريق النقشبندية تيارية قصتان إلى آلي وجغان الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. فلما نقول لا إله إلا الله, know that there is no God except the God. لا إله إلا الله, 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 محمد رسول الله عليه الصلاة الله. لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله, محمد رسول الله عليه الصلاة الله. لا إله إلا الله, لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله عليه الصلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه الصلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه الصلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد النبي الله عليه الصلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد حبيب الله عليه الصلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد حبيب الله عليه الصلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد حبيب الله عليه الصلاة الله لا إله إلا الله لا إله إلا الله محمد رسول الله عليه الصلاة الله لا إله إلا 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 الله محمد رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم إلا شرف النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وآله وصحبه الكرام وإلى واقع سوي الصادقين والصديقيون الفاتحة أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. Zikru Jalala, remembrance of God. Allah, 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 Allah. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. Who who, 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 hawk, 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 hey, 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 hey. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ورسوله لا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. الله الله حق، 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 الله 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 يا قيوم، 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 الله يا قيوم. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد وسلم. 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 صل يا رب وسلم على جميع أنبيائه ومرسلين وآل كل أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين. على أشرف نبينا سيدنا محمد صلوات، على أفضل نبينا سيدنا محمد صلوات، على أفضل نبينا سيدنا محمد صلوات، صلوات الله وبركاته وأنبيائه ورسوله وجميع كوكب على محمد وعلى آل محمد عليه وعليه السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. ورضي الله تبارك وتعالى عن سادتنا شعب رسول الله أجمعين ولتبينا بهم بإحسان ولأمة مجتدين أمدين ولعلماء متقين ولأولياء الصالحين أما الشيخين في تلك نقشبنديات ياريا قد صلوت اللهم زكيا ونولاه ترى جرت مباركة وتضاوت الذين من بركاتهم وفيوداتهم دائما والحمد لله رب العالمين. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. إلى حضرات النبي وعلى وأصحابه الكرام وإلى الله صوي أنبياء والمرسلين وقدماء الشرائع وإلى واقي مشيقين بتلك نقشبنديات آريا خاصة روحي إمام تاريخ وقوتي كريكا شعب الدين نقشبند ومدون ويسي وبخاري وإلى مولانا الشيخ عبد الله فياز الدغستاني وإلى زندبيا وإلى الصوفي عبد الله وإلى مولانا الشيخ نازم اللقاني وإلى الشيخ داود رصاوين وإلى قسطو وإلى الشيخ دانق بدر الدين وإلى مولانا الشيخ هشام كباني وإلى الشيخ دكتور تاريو كادري وإلى الشيخ بادشاه وإلى الشيخ محمد الديل وإلى الشيخ نور كباني وأستدينا وصديقيون. الفاتحة. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم. Allah shower your blessings upon the soul of the Prophet Muhammad and his noble ancestors and his noble descendants, especially the holy household of the Prophet Muhammad. O Allah, shower your blessings upon the previous prophets and all of their noble families, their noble ancestors, and their noble descendants. O Allah, shower your blessings upon all of the Sahaba Ikram, the companions of the Prophet Muhammad, the scholars and the saints, and especially my sheikhs. Ya Allah, bless Sufi Abdullah, Maulana Sheikh Nazim al-Laqani, and bless Sheikh Dawood Owen. Ya Allah, bless their souls and raise their stations in your divine presence. Ya Allah, shower your blessings upon all of the Ya Allah, shower your blessings upon my dear father, Richard Kevin Armstrong, and raise his soul in your divine presence. Ya Allah, shower your blessings upon Sheikh Sharif Hidayatullah, Sumangun Jati, and all of the Wali Songo, and Sheikh Yusuf, and Sheikh Gusto, and Sheikh Adang Badruddin, and Sheikh Abdul Qadir As-Sufi. Bless their souls, raise their stations in divine presence. Bless all of our mothers and our fathers, our grandparents, all of our ancestors, and if there's anything which we have done or will do in our life which is pleasing to you, Ya Allah, have mercy upon their souls and forgive them, bless them, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, shower your blessings upon all of our family members, all of our aunties and our uncles, our brothers and our sisters, especially our dear wives or husbands, our children, grandchildren, future generations. Ya Allah, grant our families may be under your divine protection and blessing, your divine support. Ya Allah, please accept all of our fasts, and prayers, and good deeds during this month of Ramadan. Ya Allah, forgive us of our sins. Ya Allah, bless the food that we eat. Ya Allah, bless our communities and grant that our hearts may incline more towards justice and harmony and fairness and goodwill towards everyone within our human family, and grant this to everyone in our human family, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, we pray for everyone in our human family. Ya Allah, forgive everyone, guide everyone. For the sake of the Prophet Muhammad Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala ali Sayyidina Muhammad wa barik wa sallim. Salli ya Rabbi wa sallim ala jami anbiya wa mursalin wa ala kulli ajma'in wa alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Al-Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, friends, and people around the world, brings us to a close for our Sufi meditation this evening. And it is Maghrib time here, it is Iftar time here. And please excuse me in just a moment as I'm going to go and break my fast and read my Maghrib Salah. Thank you for joining us this evening. May Allah bless you all. If you find these videos and live broadcasts useful and you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe to my Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube channels. I go live on Facebook and Instagram every Monday at about 6 p.m. at the moment, UK time, to do a small talk and a zikr. And I go live every Friday. I usually try to make it around about 7 or 8 o'clock, but it varies at the moment, especially. But if you miss the live broadcast, then you can always catch the recording, because I upload every one of these videos to YouTube, and also leave them saved as videos on my Instagram and my Facebook. You can also check all this out on my website at paulsarmstrong.com. And if you can in future, you're most welcome to join us at the Multi-Faith Chaplaincy on a Monday at around 6 p.m. But if you're in the UK, I wish you all a very good evening. And wherever you are in the world, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of the Almighty be with you all.